Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. A video has surfaced from a Lethbridge grad ceremony which had students yelling "Free Palestine." We have an update from TBN Israel's Yair Pinto, who says the Israeli military has taken control of a Hamas command complex in Gaza City. And a major gaffe has gone viral of U.S. President Joe Biden referring to himself as a black woman.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. It appears as though a political statement that was made at a Lethbridge high school is not sitting very well with some here in our city. The conflict between Israel and Hamas, which includes the Palestinian people, appears to be influencing some of our students. As BCN's Heidi Echevarria explains now, the political statement that was made by certain students has had a negative impact on our Jewish community.
Just like you say, Hal, parents of students in the Lethbridge School Division are concerned a perceived rise in anti-Semitism in our city. This follows a video that was taken by a parent of a couple of students at Winston Churchill High School yelling their support for the Palestinian people.
Also, Free Palestine!
The statement of support was given in June of this year. Parents contacted Bridge City News expressing their concern. Gary Cohn, president of the Lethbridge Hebrew congregation, gave us his opinion on the matter.
They were bringing a political atmosphere and statement into a ceremony that should not be politicized or desecrated in any way other than the celebration of the students graduating. There's no place for politics in a high school graduation. The impartiality in the school and the Palestinian young people trying to make a statement to bring forth something. But what they're trying to say is, we want from the river to the sea. If you ask most people what that means, they have no idea. But from the river to the sea means from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, Palestine shall be free, which means the elimination of all the Jewish people within that area. I just thought it was horrible. It was done in extremely bad taste, and to try and make those statements that in a function that had nothing to do with a war in the Middle East was totally out of place and disgraceful and disgusting.
Probably they will grow up disliking or hating Jewish people. The Jewish people don't want to hate the Palestinians. They want to help them if they would only allow them to. The school should give the Jewish community of Lethbridge an opportunity to explain the history.
Bridge City News reached out to the Lethbridge School Division for comments, and they told us that they will try and line up an interview for us next week. For Bridge City News, I'm Heidi Echevarria.
Meanwhile, in Montreal, police have cleared protesters from a pro-Palestinian encampment that was set up last month in the heart of Montreal's financial district. Municipal workers were on site at Victoria Square using tools to cut down metal shielding around the protesters' tents and tearing down the tarps. Montreal Mayor Valerie Plante says the decision to dismantle the encampment was not taken very lightly.
It was a delicate operation which was carried out calmly and professionally, which is a result of an adequate preparation. The dismantling of the camp in Square Victoria is a decision that was not taken lightly. I think many Montrealers are asking themselves this morning why we intervened today. It's important for me to remind everybody that the right to demonstrate is a fundamental right protected by the charters, and we will always defend it. But a demonstration cannot permanently occupy a public site. You can't occupy a public site permanently, no matter what the cause.
Mothers of the Israeli hostages still being held by the terrorist group Hamas in Gaza marched in Tel Aviv earlier today. They're calling for the return of their loved ones.
אני פונה עליך, בנימין נתניהו, אדוני ראש הממשלה, ההסכם פה הוא במרחק נגיעה. אנא ממך, הלב שלנו, האימהות כבר לא עומד בזה. הלב שלנו נמצא בעזה. תחזיר לנו את הלב שלנו. תשלח את הצוות המשא ומתן עם הוראה אחת. אל תחזרו בלי ההסכם. כי די, 9 חודשים הם די. תחזיר לי אותם הביתה עכשיו! עכשיו! את כולם! עכשיו!
It appears as though Israel is winning the war with Hamas in Gaza. According to TBN Israel correspondent Yair Pinto, the Israeli Defense Forces have taken full control of the Hamas command and control complex in Gaza City.
The IDF forces managed to surprise the Hamas forces and in about 40 minutes had completely overwhelmed the terrorist forces in and around the complex, recording 15 encounters with the enemy and eliminating 40 terrorists. This included about 30 anti-tank squads as other IDF forces found and collected valuable intelligence material. The operation continued on Monday morning as IDF forces continued to maneuver both above and below the ground in Hamas's underground terror network that was dug underneath the city, keeping the pressure on Hamas as they tried to regroup in that area.
Footage from Italy's Stromboli volcano showed lots of smoke that engulfed part of the island late this week. Officials say lava flowed from an opening 700 meters or almost 2,300 feet above sea level into the Mediterranean.
Tanto da ieri lo Stromboli, come diciamo, è sorvegliato speciale con attenzione maggiore perché è in livello rosso, quindi è il massima scala di attenzione, chiamiamola scientifica, al quale poi seguono una serie di attività operative. Dal punto di vista operativo siamo in quello che noi chiamiamo tecnicamente preallarme, quindi ha già il sindaco emesso delle ordinanze di interdizione per la notte. Oggi non sarà possibile raggiungere l'isola per i cosiddetti giornalieri, no? Quelli che vanno la mattina e tornano il pomeriggio. Sarà fatta una campagna di informazione ai cittadini. Ovviamente c'è un sistema di monitoraggio scientifico rafforzato e le strutture operative si sono predisposte per le attività che ognuno ha di competenza.
The United Kingdom has a new prime minister. Keir Starmer says he will lead a government of service on a mission of national renewal in his first official remarks on Friday. Now, this after his Labour Party swept to power in a landslide victory after being in opposition for more than a decade.
You have given us a clear mandate, and we will use it to deliver change, to restore service and respect to politics, end the era of noisy performance, tread more lightly on your lives, and unite our country. 4 nations standing together again, facing down, as we have so often in our past, the challenges of an insecure world, committed to a calm and patient rebuilding. So, with respect and humility, I invite you all to join this government of service in the mission of national renewal. Our work is urgent, and we begin it today.
A verbal slip by U.S. President Joe Biden has gone viral online. Following his recent debate with Donald Trump, Biden says he's proud to be the first black woman to serve with a black president. He made the claim during a recent radio interview.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, serve with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
The federal Conservatives are vowing to remove the person recently appointed by the Trudeau government to head up the Canadian Human Rights Commission. The party says once they form government, they would rescind the appointment of bridgecitynews. Tory MP Melissa Lantsman says Detani has a long track record of anti-Israeli statements, and that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau should demand Detani either stand down or he should be fired. Justice Minister Arif Virani launched an independent investigation into allegations surrounding Detani's online activities after some Jewish advocacy groups voiced their concerns. Making healthy choices is easier said than done, but sometimes it's more than a craving. Catherine Paysauer, author of the book Honoring God with My Body, Journey to Wellness and Healthy Lifestyle shares how some of our bodies, minds, and spirits are connected. She says if there's an issue with one, it usually affects all the others.
And that I have a tendency to want to view our body in a holistic way, multidimensional. And so that way we consider our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health, our vocational health. All of those things come together, and each of those impacts the other. For example, if we are really feeling depressed, it's going to affect our ability to want to get up and move or do anything. Or if we've had a really hard day, lots of stress, then we're weakened by that as well. And we know if we remember the pandemic, and how could we forget how important our social health is, because so many times we were isolated during the pandemic, and that affected every single aspect of our health. So
make sure you catch my full interview with author Dr. Catherine Paysauer, who gives some pretty good advice on how you can begin your journey to a healthier lifestyle. That's coming up later in our newscast. You know, as we age, our ability to hear may begin to diminish. But how do we recognize hearing issues in our children? Mitchell Harris, audiologist with Hearing Life here in Lethbridge, gives some tips on what to look out for.
So often things you're looking for is, changes in behavior. So they might get more withdrawn or frustrated and feel like they're not, participating in the same way. Looking for those speech and language milestones, and if they're delayed that way, then that's a good indicator that hearing might play a role there. You might have them mispronouncing words or mishearing words, especially when they're really little. Then you're looking for things like having them, not react to loud sounds. So if, big brother's beside them and is banging on pots and they're not responding at all, then it's probably not that they're just used to that. It's probably that they're not hearing that sound come through.
Make sure you catch the entire interview with audiologist Mitchell Harris and BCN's Michael Clausen coming up after Business News. A new study has revealed which medical problems Canadians are Googling the most. The survey done by Presler Injury Lawyers shows that carpal tunnel syndrome took top spot with an average monthly search of 29,185. Up next was bursitis, which is an average monthly search volume of 26,317. Rounding out the top five were nasal septum deviation, which is Googled 23,157 times. Shin splints came in at number 4 at 22,265. And rounding out the top five were concussions with a monthly search volume of 19,368. The study analyzed the number of monthly Google searches in Canada for over 100 injuries and conditions to determine which ones Canadians worry about the most. The Calgary Stampede kicked off today with a parade that comes about a month to the day after a major water main break crippled the city. There have been concerns that the summer festival would bring an influx of people that would push the city's water system to a breaking point. A directive for Calgarians to cut their indoor water use was lifted earlier this week. A ban on outdoor watering is still in effect as the system runs at reduced capacity to keep reserves stable and the replacement line undergoes testing. Up in Edmonton, meanwhile, government officials welcomed the official opening of the legislature grounds fountain reconstruction. Infrastructure Minister Pete Guthrie says a lot of work has gone on to the first phase.
Crews replaced walkways, concrete deckings and fountains and gardens, and they upgraded mechanical and water filtration systems to meet current building codes and health standards, as many of those naturally have changed since the pool was originally built in the 70s. There's over 95,000 cubic feet of concrete used and poured on this site, and about 200 tons of rebar used. Additionally, most of the granite you see in these features was refurbished from the old fountains, preserving a little bit of history, but also saving taxpayers money.
The federal government says it is on pretty firm legal ground to get millions of dollars in carbon levy money from Saskatchewan. The province has filed for an injunction to stop the Canada Revenue Agency from collecting the money. Provincial government officials say it's unfair that Saskatchewan is being targeted. National Revenue Minister Marie-Claude Bobeau says the law is the law and Saskatchewan chose to disobey. She says the Supreme Court of Canada ruled the carbon levy is constitutional. The City of Lethbridge is allowing residents to access live-time footage of the city's notable Whoop-Up Drive. Now, reviewers can look at 4 cameras throughout the main exit ramps and eastbound and westbound sections of the drive, where shots are updated every 2 minutes and stored for 20 minutes to be viewed through different slides. Now, the cameras are used by infrastructure services for traffic engineering purposes, and the city made them accessible to the public so they could determine real-time updates to prepare for the drives ahead. Construction on Whoop Up Drive began on Tuesday for rehabilitation work, which will continue until Labor Day weekend. By the way, the photos can be viewed on the city's website. The Lethbridge Bulls are enjoying a pretty strong season so far this year. Now, this weekend, they'll play a home-and-home series against the Brooks Bombers. The Bulls are riding a 20-12 record and sit in third place in the West Division. The team feels all aspects of their play are coming together at the right time after a slow start to the season.
We've just had really good starting pitching. Our bats have been really good. I think we're, top 3 in the league in batting average. We've been timely hits and getting guys on and team speed. And then our defense has been one of the top in the league all year. So we haven't been really making mistakes. Earlier on in the season, we didn't have a lot of, pitching, and quite a few of our guys weren't here yet. I think we lost 8 or 9 arms early on in the season to injuries and stuff. So it's kind of rebuilding and finding arms to fit those roles that we lost guys. But, we're kind of piecing it all together and just finding a way to keep winning.
We love having the fans behind us. They give us just the adrenaline, and we just love having them cheer and keep us going. We love playing at home. We love Lethbridge. We got great fans, and they bring the momentum, and we feed off them, and they feed off us.
The Bulls will continue their series against the Bombers at home on Friday night. They'll then head back to Brooks on Saturday and finish the weekend at Lethbridge for a matinee versus Okotoks. It's been nice baseball weather here lately. We enjoyed a beautiful summer day in Lethbridge earlier today, but there's a chance of some showers developing later tonight. A full look at the weather picture is on deck. It was a nice mild day across much of southwestern Alberta again today. Tonight, however, there's a chance of some showers developing with a low near 11 degrees. Saturday, a good chance of more showers once again with the mercury hovering around 23. Mainly sunny on Sunday with a high expected near 28 degrees. Look at how next week is shaping up though. Lots of sunshine on Monday with a balmy high of 30. Sunny and 32 degrees is on tap for Tuesday. We could be getting close to a record on Wednesday with a high near 36 degrees expected, cooling off slightly to 35 on Thursday. Now looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 25 degrees with an average low of 10. The record high was 36 degrees set back in 2007, and the record low was a chilly 4 degrees back in 2003. The sun rose at 5:31 and will set at 9:40. Let's have a look at how Saturday is shaping up across our home and native land now. Expect lots of sunshine in Vancouver with a high of 25. A clear sky and 27 degrees is on tap for Victoria. Sunny skies in both Calgary and Edmonton tomorrow. Edmonton should get up to 26, sunny, and 23 for Calgary. Clouds and showers with a high of 25 for Regina, rainy and 26 degrees for Saskatoon. In Winnipeg, expect an overcast day with rain and a high of 25 degrees. Lots of humidity expected in the central part of the country. Cloudy, rainy, and a high of 28 for Toronto. Showers and 23 degrees for Ottawa. Montreal should be mainly overcast with rain and a high near 27. Over in Atlantic Canada, expect thunder showers with a high of 20 degrees in Fredericton. Rain and 19 is on tap for Halifax. Clouds and showers and a high near 20 in Charlottetown. And in St. John's, it'll be mainly sunny with a high near 26 degrees tomorrow. Suncor Energy is cutting some production at its Firebag oil sands site in northern Alberta as an out-of-control forest fire continues to burn about 8 kilometers away. The Calgary-based company has pulled all non-essential workers from the facility. It says it'll be ready to resume full operations once it's safe to do so once again. The fire is 14 kilometers northeast of Suncor's Firebag Aerodome and 16 kilometers east of Imperial Oil's Kearl Oil Sands facility. Hudson's Bay Company has confirmed a deal to buy rival Neiman Marcus for $2.65 billion US. The Toronto-based company says it's going to spin off the luxury department store and its other international assets, including Saks Fifth Avenue, into a new global entity called Saks Global. It also intends to reestablish HBC's Canadian business of stores and online retailing as a standalone entity. The economy lost about 1,400 jobs in June as the unemployment rate hit a more than two-year high of 6.4%. That's up from 6.2% back in May. The jobs report is a key data point ahead of the Bank of Canada's next interest rate decision later this month. A new water treatment plant is open for a First Nation in Saskatchewan that had spent years under a water advisory. Chief Michael Starr of Star Blanket Cree Nation says the opening of the plant is a significant victory in their ongoing environmental justice and self-determination advocacy. Indigenous Services Canada says construction began back in January of 2023. Star Blanket Cree Nation is home to about 300 people and is located about 90 kilometers northeast of Regina. Now, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 184 points on the day to finish at 22,059. The Dow was up 67 points to 39,375. The S&P 500 was up 30 to 5567, and the Nasdaq was up 164 points to finish at 18,352. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 54 cents to 83.34 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 9 cents to 2.33 US. Gold was up 34.96 to 23.9165 US an ounce, and silver was up 82 cents to 31.22 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.95 per bushel. Barley is at $5.92. Canola is at $14.97, and corn is at $7.24 per bushel. Live cattle August contract was up 50 cents to $186.43. Feeder cattle August contract was down $1.90 to $261.48. Lean hogs were up 13 cents to $89.88, and the Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 73.30 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, the United Kingdom has a new Prime Minister. Keir Starmer says he will lead a government of service on a mission of national renewal in his first official remarks on Friday after his Labour Party swept to power in a landslide victory after being in opposition for more than a decade. Coming up, we're going to chat with a doctor and author who wrote a book on the best way we can honor God with our bodies. Watch the informative interview with Dr. Catherine Paysauer coming up shortly. When you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. Also, be sure to visit our website anytime to check out a number of stories and interviews.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Discover a new activity that you love. All are invited to this summer's Give It a Try events, hosted by the Lethbridge Sport Council. It's a great opportunity to try your hand at a new sport like climbing, badminton, handball, and more. Events are free to attend. Register in advance by visiting lethbridgesportcouncil.ca/program/give-it-a-try. Go back in time and see what it was like to live as a pioneer. Coyote Flats Pioneer Village is a Western heritage museum located 1.5 kilometers south of Pitcher Butte. Walk through the village and visit an old-time railway station, post office, fire hall, school, and so much more. The museum is open daily from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with admission of $10 for adults or $20 per family. For more information, visit coyoteflats.org. And that's today's Bridge City News community calendar.
Staying healthy has certainly become a focal point for many of us today. But you know, sometimes it's a little easier said than done. Does God expect us to care for the health of our bodies a little bit more? Treat our body more like a temple instead of an amusement park. Today's guest has written a book on the subject. Dr. Catherine Paysauer holds degrees in health, physical education, religion, and a PhD in education. She was a professor at the University of North Carolina and is author of the book, Honoring God with My Body, Journey to Wellness and a Healthy Lifestyle. She joins us now from North Carolina. Catherine, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you. It's so great to be here with you.
Catherine, the Bible says that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. What does that mean exactly?
Our bodies are an amazing creation. Our Father put so much into crafting us. We can run and jump and play and talk and sing and dance. We're just an amazing, amazing creation. And the Bible tells us that the Holy Spirit lives within our bodies, that it is housed, dwelling right inside of us. So that's just another marvelous gift that our Father has given us. And so I believe that we should really honor our body, taking care of the temple as good as we possibly can. And I loved your intro where you said we're not an amusement park. You know, we tend to want to just eat anything we want and do anything we want and expect our body to recover. And amazingly, it does in many cases, but we should be careful what we eat. We should try to be active. We should take good care of our body because it is the dwelling place of the Holy Spirit. And that's such a wonderful miracle that we're so wonderfully created.
And you know, it's funny, when it comes to amusement parks, I've got kind of a weakness for those mini donuts and corn dogs, so I have to be very careful anytime the fair rolls through town. Catherine, when you refer to health in your book, is it just about our physical bodies, or is it much more than that?
It's much, much more than that. I have a tendency to want to view our body in a holistic way, multidimensional. And so that way we consider our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health, our vocational health. All of those things come together, and each of those impacts the other. For example, if we are really feeling depressed, it's going to affect our ability to want to get up and move or do anything. Or if we've had a really hard day, lots of stress, then we're weakened by that as well. And we know if we remember the pandemic, and how could we forget how important our social health is, because so many times we were isolated during the pandemic, and that affected every single aspect of our health. So all of those things work together. We need to have a purpose in life, vocational, something, even if we're retired, we need to still have a purpose in life. And our career needs to be something that is enjoyable and fulfilling and makes us want to get up in the morning and get ready and go to work. So all of those aspects of health, work together, and each of them impacts the other.
And make sure we really enjoy our jobs, because nothing's worse than waking up and going to a job you really do not enjoy and you feel stressed out about or anxious. Now, you write about health risk behaviors. What are they exactly?
Health risk behaviors are those things that we do that are not very good for us. Some of them are obvious, such as not wearing our seatbelt. That makes it risky for us to get out and go about. Others are, we should know better, but we don't always. It depends on if we have a sedentary lifestyle, if we're not active, or if we don't eat healthy foods. All of those things affect our body. And so those are risk factors for us. And the things that we put into our body, or the lack of exercise, can contribute to chronic health conditions such as diabetes, obesity, heart conditions. So it makes a difference, those behaviors that we choose. And they are within our control to change. We can become more active. It's not always easy. We can eat more fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and lean meats. It's not always easy, but we can, pick a habit that's not very good for us and work on changing it one thing at a time. We don't have to do it all at once, but we have to make decisions. We ourselves have to make these decisions of what we're going to choose to eat, whether we're going to be active, or we're going to handle our stress well. Stress is real. It exists. And we can't avoid it always, but we can learn to cope with our stress. And so all of those things come together as far as the choices that we make that affect our bodies.
When I chatted with my doctor about diet and exercise, leading a healthy lifestyle, keeping a healthy weight, he says 90% of it's actually the food you put into your mouth. And unfortunately, today, fast food is cheaper than the healthier food. People want to eat healthier, like you said, buy more fruits and vegetables and, free-range meat and eggs, but that's not cheap.
No, it is not. And that seems so unfair. You're right. With junk food and canned stuff and pre-prepared meals are cheaper sometimes than fixing our own meals. But even if we go out to eat, we can make some good choices. Most places will have salad, and if we don't put too much dressing on it, it's going to be healthy for us. But whole foods are best. You have to go what they look like in their natural state. So fresh fruits and vegetables are really good for us. Whole grains are good for us. We should try to avoid processed foods. So that's deli meat and what you mentioned as fast foods, but they are so convenient. So we have to make choices. And when it comes to eating, and prepare ahead of time. When we go to the grocery store, go around the outside of the perimeter. That's where our healthiest foods will be, and look for those lean choices of meat and foods that are not have so much added sugar. Sugar is a culprit. It really is. It causes inflammation within our body. Besides having too many calories. Sugar is a real culprit, but it tastes better. And when you mix sugar and fat together, like in ice cream, ooh, that's really, really good. So we have to work hard to eat those foods sparingly and try to predominantly, as much as possible, make the healthier choices.
One
And
of my
it's hard.
favorite comedians of all time was the late, great John Panette, and he was a very big man. He used to joke about food all the time. And he said, you know, his doctor told him to eat lots of salads. Doesn't matter, any kind of salads you want. So, you know, the server brought him a big salad. She says, what do you want to put on it? He says, Haagen-Dazs. For dressing. So anyway, but you know what? The number of North Americans who are obese today, Catherine, has risen dramatically over the last 20 years. Why do you think that's
It
happening?
has.
Is it the fast food, the sedentary lifestyle? And it must be putting a lot of stress on our healthcare systems.
It's a combination of those two things you just mentioned, the sedentary lifestyle and the choices we make with food. As we mentioned earlier, the fast food and eating out is so convenient. And we're all so busy. I mean, I understand it. I mean, I like to eat out too. And I like those foods that are easier to fix. And desserts is my weakness. And so a lot of other people, I think, share those same uh, weaknesses. But food is good. It is good for us. And it's not like we can just not eat. It's not a habit that we can quit cold turkey and never go back to. We have to eat to take care of our bodies. And so we are the ones that have to choose what we put into it. And if you combine an unhealthy eating habits with a sedentary lifestyle, because we drive everywhere that we go, and we watch TV, we sit at our jobs often, and so we have so many occupations that are sedentary. Combine those two things, and it leads to overeating and obesity. And 40, over 40% of our population in the United States, can't speak for your country, is obese or overweight, and that's tragic because then that leads to chronic diseases, diabetes, heart disease, and as you mentioned, it puts a real pressure on our medical profession and our healthcare system. And it's expensive too.
Many healthcare professionals we've chatted with in the past say that sugar is a very addictive substance as well. You know, how do you try and wean yourself off of sugar and sugary foods?
It is addictive, and it's because it tastes so good. But avoid as much as we can, drink more water, and reduce our intake of beverages that have sugar in them. That's one of the main culprits. I'm a Southern girl, country girl, and I love sweet tea, but I know I can't drink it 3 times a day, so I've cut back to a couple of times a week. And soft drinks are another real culprit. And if people can begin to replace some of their beverages with water, we should try to, as much as possible, drink 8 glasses of water every day. And then our other coffee or tea or whatever is extra over and above that. And people don't really realize how much of their beverages that they drink that have sugar in them, that we typically don't count those calories, but they are there. So if you could cut back on those sugary beverages, add more water, and then I hate to say it because I love dessert, but eat less of it. Save it for special occasions and remember our portions. You mentioned Haagen-Dazs. Oh, there's nothing better than ice cream with hot fudge on it. That's my favorite thing. But I can eat smaller portions of it and save it for special occasions.
What about anxiety and stress? What kind of roles do they play in our overall health?
Well, it contributes in a lot of ways. Anxiety and stress can cause us to be either overeater, a stress eater, or not to eat at all. And that's one particular thing. It does definitely affect what we eat and how much of we eat. It also can contribute to high blood pressure. Ongoing stress can contribute to heart disease. And it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a manner of getting rid of stress. Although, if we know something really stresses us, say traffic, we know that traffic really stresses us, then we should try to avoid rush hour traffic. That's a choice we can make, maybe, depending on our job and that sort of thing. But we could try that way. Or if being in big crowds bother us, we could go to the store or shopping when it's less crowded. But we cannot eliminate stress. It's just part of life. So then we need to learn to cope with it. And So we should find some, I find walking helps me with my stress level, and exercise in general helps us reduce stress and cope with stress. Meditation, finding a quiet place, just to have some meditation time, quiet time with God. Social time, we need social time, and use that to enjoy being with our friends rather than complaining about all the stress that we have. Use that time to really communicate and have quality time with family and friends. There's just so many things that we can do to help cope with stress.
Let's circle back to exercise for just a moment here, Catherine. Many say that working out is very important, like you said, working out the stress and just staying in shape physically. And as we age, we begin to lose muscle mass and bone density, so maybe working out, even light workouts, is that much more important.
Oh, it is. Exercise really improves our quality of life no matter what our age. And we have to adapt to what we do. When I was 20, I could do a lot more things than I can do now that I have a friend that calls it the fourth quarter, which kind of bothers me, but it is true. But I've continued to exercise, and we can keep on. We just have to adapt to what we do. I'm no longer a runner. I walk instead, or I can do water aerobics. And it's important to continue even the weightlifting because it helps resistance exercise. It doesn't necessarily have to be weights, but some sort of resistance where we're working our muscles more than they're used to, because that helps prevent osteoporosis. And we want to keep that bone density to avoid having fractures as we get older. But exercise does so much besides just reducing stress. It helps prevent heart disease. It helps us manage our weight. It is a stress reliever. It can blunt our appetites if we're really craving that hot fudge sundae with nuts. Then go take a walk and might not want it so badly when we come back. But it gives us, exercise is so beneficial to us no matter what our age is. So we should keep doing it I always say, from the time we're born all the way until it's time for us to go to our eternal home. We need to keep that exercise going.
I think you've mentioned hot fudge sundae 2 or 3 times. Now I'm craving a hot fudge sundae. Thanks to you. Thanks a lot.
You can tell. You can tell, but it's one of my favorite things.
So any advice for those who are maybe feeling a little discouraged and don't know really where to begin when it comes to creating a healthier lifestyle, diet, and or exercise?
Start small. Pick a habit that you might want to change and work on that. For example, drinking more water or walking more. We shouldn't try to change everything at once, or to go out and there's nothing wrong with joining a gym. I'm a member of a gym, nothing wrong with it. But if you go to the gym the first week and you exercise for 2 hours, the next day and the day after that, you're probably not going to be able to lift your arms or take a step. You'll be so sore. So start gradually and then add on. Walking, if you're not a walker yet, then you want to be a walker, just walk for 10 minutes. Don't try to get out and walk 2 hours the first day. So start small and then build up. And the same way with changing and adding new habits. If you're not a vegetable lover, you don't like fresh fruits and vegetables, just try to add a new fruit or vegetable to your diet and watch those soft drinks. Eat out. Oh, I love to eat out, but don't eat out every day. And if you know there's something that really tempts you that you need to change, say that you love candy. Well, then just don't buy it. Try to add a different. So you can replace one habit with another. When you get off work, if your temptation is to go home and sit down and turn on the television, let that be your exercise time right between that. Get off work, go ahead and take that walk, or go to the gym, or call a friend and say, what kind of activity can we do together? So you can try to replace a habit with a different one that's healthier. But start small and just build up.
You know what's helped us in our family too is getting a dog. It forces you to go for a walk. You have to go for walks when you have a dog. So, my dog's taking me for a walk.
They're so happy to see you when you do that.
Dr. Catherine Pace-Sauer is author of the book, Honoring God with My Body, Journey to Wellness and a Healthy Lifestyle. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us today from North Carolina.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Have a wonderful day.
Well, for some of us, as we age, our ability to hear may diminish. Naturally, this can cause new challenges for us. Of course, sometimes hearing loss can even happen in children. What are the symptoms and what are the solutions? Well, today's guest has some answers for us. Mitchell Harris is an audiologist with Hearing Life here in Lethbridge. Good to have you with us, Mitchell.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have a little chat about hearing. Now, how can a person tell if they have some form of hearing loss? Maybe what are the typical symptoms?
It's often pretty gradual. Sometimes you might have something where you wake up and you're not hearing what you feel like you should, but more often it's just it might be people around you that are feeling like, they're having to repeat more often, or they're just not very clear, or, people are mumbling a little bit more. Sometimes you're mistaking words, so you're having a conversation that's different than the person you're talking to. You might be starting to struggle to hear more in groups or social situations, or find yourself often, doing the smile and nod without being quite sure what's going on around. So it can be, present in a lot of different ways, but mostly just when you're feeling like that communication isn't flowing so easily, whether you're noticing it for yourself or someone else is letting you know, then it's probably some hearing is changing a little bit there.
Gotcha. Now, before we really delve into the subject, let's dive into the inner ear. Can hearing loss even affect a person's balance as well?
It can. So inside the inner ear, then you've got, neighboring systems there. There's the hearing center and the balance that are all kind of within that shared space. And so, how exactly it relates, it can kind of vary. There's a higher level of, fall risk with a higher level of hearing loss.
Yeah, I
So
hadn't thought of that.
yeah, so some of it is um, like there's some correlation there, whether it's a direct correlation or whether there's other factors involved. Often with higher hearing loss, there's often higher age as well, so there's other factors that play a role too. But there's certainly that strong connection between the hearing and the balance.
Right. Now, we do know also that the ear, nose, and throat are all connected. Can one of those other two systems affect our hearing?
They can, for sure. Yeah, especially you'll notice if you have a sinus infection or something like that, then your ears are going to feel plugged up and it sounds like things are a little bit more mumbled. So yeah, everything's a lot more interconnected than we realize sometimes.
Right. Now, speaking of that interconnectedness, and living here in southern Alberta with sometimes the dramatic pressure changes in the wind, have you found from your clients that maybe that's an issue as well for them?
It can be a little bit, especially with hearing aids and wind, they haven't got along so well dealing with those kind of things. And so you've got clients with, more sensitive ears where you're keeping them covered or putting cotton in your ears whenever it's windy to try and just help prevent some of those changes in that pressure. Um, but overall, things are improving for the better. Even with hearing aids, they do a lot better job in wind than they did in the past. And then there's other strategies we can use to try and prevent some of that pain or discomfort that can happen from those changes from pressure or wind.
Right. Now, this might sound a bit odd, but I wanted to ask you about earwax. We clean our face and our hands. Is there anything to cleaning our ears or having them cleaned?
There is, the first disclaimer there is you hear about in schools, don't put anything smaller than your elbow in your ear. And that's still a good rule to live by there. Often the wax that we'll see will be because someone's been using Q-tips or something, it ends up moving it back into the ear as opposed to kind of letting it come out by itself. We do see, with headphones and things like that, then there is more wax that gets built up. And so, if you're feeling like things aren't sounding very good, definitely have them looked at and see if there's some wax building up there. There are some kits you can get at home that are more of a drop or something to help break down the wax. And then in the shower, you can use a little bit of a water rinse to help move that out too. So there's things you can do, but ideally the ear will kind of take care of itself.
Oh, that's really interesting because, of course, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. So how do the ears maintain themselves?
Where the wax is produced is kind of the outer third portion of that ear canal. And that portion of the ear canal, the skin grows outwards. So as the wax is produced, then it's kind of on that moving escalator that's just taking it and all the debris out of the ear. So ideally, after you shower, you could just use a tissue and wipe the outside of your ear, and that would just take that as it moves it on out. But
Well, okay. Well, I appreciate that. As mundane as it might sound, it's very interesting to hear that it sounds like our ears are almost made to be a self-contained, self-maintenance system. Would you agree with that?
for sure, yeah.
Right. Now, you mentioned earbuds, and of course, I'm wearing my IFB. There's earmuffs, noise-canceling headphones, and of course, the ubiquitous white earbuds that people have. Can you talk a little bit about maybe health and safety related to those units?
Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting world we live in when it comes to putting something in your ears. It's getting more and more common to see those in as opposed to see them out. And so you're just wanting to make sure you're trying to keep that at a safe level. With anything in the hearing world for volume, then either really loud noises can start to cause damage, or something that's less loud for a long period of time can do that same, damage, or cause that same risk. So with those, headphones, things in your ear, you're wanting to make sure it's at a safe, comfortable volume. You're not cranking it up all the time, and then just make sure that you're not, having them in 24/7 if you can avoid it.
Right. And I'm sure that if people will realize their ears are starting to hurt a little bit, probably a personal indicator to turn that audio down, or just take them out and give your ears a break for a bit.
For sure, yeah. And with a lot of new technology, they have some warnings built in that'll tell you, you're exceeding this volume, and you have to kind of confirm it before you can go up. So if you do see those warnings, turn it down a
Yeah,
little bit.
pay attention, right? Now, I want to ask you about children and their ear health. Now, the little ones may not realize that they have a hearing problem. So what should parents be on the lookout for?
In Alberta, we've got an infant hearing screening program, which is really good. So then make sure when you do have an infant to go to those appointments and get those checked. That helps catch a lot of those, newborn hearing problems there. But then also as they get older, then those hearing aid problems can arise that might not have been there before. So often things you're looking for is, changes in behavior. So they might get more withdrawn or frustrated and feel like they're not, participating in the same way. Looking for those speech and language milestones, and if they're delayed that way, then that's a good indicator that hearing might play a role there. You might have them mispronouncing words or mishearing words, especially when they're really little. Then you're looking for things like having them, not react to loud sounds. So if, big brother's beside them and is banging on pots and they're not responding at all, then it's probably not that they're just used to that. It's probably that they're not hearing that sound come through.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Some telltale signs, so to speak, to see how the child's reacting as they're growing. So another question for us adults and parents, of course, maybe at what point should an adult have their hearing checked professionally?
First, I would say if you haven't, then you should do it. Um, Regardless of your age or kind of how you feel like your hearing is, it's always good to have a baseline. So if things do shift, then you've got something to compare it to. So that would be the first thing is go get that baseline test done. And then after that, it's kind of whenever you're feeling like there's a change, or you or someone close to you is feeling like something's not working the way it should. If those symptoms we talked about before, if you're asking for repetition or a lot, or just things aren't very clear, then get that hearing checked.
Right. So can you describe for us what happens during a hearing check, or maybe what kind of tests are done?
Yeah. So often, as you come through the hearing test, the tests are fairly similar, and kind of the flow might change depending on where you're at. But you're going to go through some of your case history of your background and what you've been noticing there. You'll have your ears looked into to see if things are looking typical there, if there's anything that might be causing the problem, whether it's wax or something else stuck in your ear. they'll do a few measurements on your ear to see how well the sound is getting through the middle ear space, if there's pressure or fluid that's causing some hearing loss there, and how well those inner hearing hair cells are responding to the sound. And then we'll kind of move into the hearing booth there, or the sound booth, and you'll do some, the infamous beep test that you hear about a lot, of listening to a beep and responding or pushing a button or raising your hand, and then some speech testing as well to see how well you're able to hear and respond to speech in quiet and in noise.
Mm-hmm. Now, tinnitus is a common problem that can be debilitating because of its persistence. Can you talk a little bit about the causes and if there's any possible solutions or relief?
Yeah. So tinnitus it's a little bit of a gray area depending on kind of what the cause is. Sometimes it can just be something medical, where there might be a medical resolution for it to kind of resolve that. But most of the time it's kind of unknown what the cause is. One of the leading theories there is, in simple terms, it's the brain trying to fill in for missing information. So with hearing loss or things, then we're not having the same sound come in, and the brain's realizing that something's not there. So it's kind of filling in that space with another sound. So often in those situations, things like a hearing aid can play a big role by filling that blank back in and giving you that sound again. There are other therapies you can look into for tinnitus. Often things like sound, white noise, different masking noise at nighttime can kind of help give the brain something else to focus on to help you fall asleep. Things like that. It's all pretty individual. So with that one, then we would certainly want to look at it more in deeper detail on a case-by-case basis with you in the clinic.
Right. So have you seen a connection between the ringing in one's ears and their diet, or as we talked about earlier, the weather patterns here in southern Alberta?
A little bit. There's some research that looks into, high sodium diet and alcohol, things like that can play a role in how much the ears are going to ring. Personally, I haven't seen it too much. It's typically more what I've seen a lot more of is related to noise and hearing loss there.
Gotcha. And just in general, overall ear health, has there been research connecting nutrition and hearing?
There has. I'm not aware of anything recently to speak to particularly, but there has been a little bit typically associated more with, tinnitus or specific causes and what might be involved there.
Right. So what are some of the solutions for hearing loss? Does it mean a hearing aid in all cases, or are there other solutions?
So hearing aid is the most typical solution. It just depends on the kind of hearing loss that it is. So if it's something, if there's fluid in the middle ear, then you might need to go into kind of a medical intervention and have some surgery or something like that. But most of the time, a hearing aid is kind of what we would be looking at there.
Gotcha. Now, we're fortunate to have Alberta Health Services. Is there any tax dollars or money offered through AHS that helps with coverage for children or seniors, low-income households like that?
There is, yeah. So for seniors and low income and children, then there is some funding that's available. And again, with your health number and information, we can look into their system to see what coverage it might be. Sometimes an entry level pair of hearing aids might be fully covered. Sometimes there just might be some funding that helps towards those costs. But yes, certainly in Alberta, we're lucky to have some sort of support there.
Yeah. Now, just before we wrap this up, tell our viewers how they can get a hold of you.
So I'm at our Hearing Life clinic here in Lethbridge. Well, there's a few of us around, but there's lots of hearing clinics in Lethbridge and around to look into and get a hearing test. Typically, it's only within a few days that you should be able to make an appointment and get in to get things checked. So don't stress about long wait lists or anything like that. Just give us a call and we can get you in. Me particularly, I'm at my clinic half-time. I also work with the school divisions as an educational audiologist, which is kind of an interesting twist there to see how the students are able to learn and have access to the sound there. But yeah.
Well, that sounds really interesting. I think I might have buried the headline, but could you talk about hearing and learning and how that impacts children at school?
Yeah, so often it's the biggest thing is just access. With the teacher of the deaf that I work with, and we're all often talking about, visual problems are usually a little bit more obvious. When you see that they're not looking in the right direction at all, then there might be something happening there. With hearing, those students are usually kind of in the classroom and they might look like they're paying attention, but they don't have the same access to the sound that's coming through, so they can't process that sound. And so we just need to work with the students for advocating for themselves and work with their teachers and learning teams to make sure that the right equipment is in place and that the right training happens there.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that. Thanks so much for being with us today, Mitchell.
Well, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it was great to have you here. That was Mitchell Harris. He is an audiologist with Hearing Life here in Lethbridge, Alberta. I'm Michael Clausen, and for all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.